Before there were high flyers like Russell Westbrook, Blake Griffin, Vince Carter, and even Michael Jordan, there was a 6'8" small forward from the Atlanta Hawks who assaulted the rim with his thunderous slams in such a way that the league had never seen before. Dominique Wilkins, aka the human highlight film. A man who was ahead of his time with his jaw-dropping athletic ability and terrific finishes above the rim. Dominique had been selected 3rd overall in the 1982 draft by the Utah Jazz, but was later traded to the Atlanta Hawks, whose management had seen superstar potential in the young small forward, and did they ever get it right. Dominique took the NBA by storm, destroying NBA centers and posterizing all those who chose to stand between him and the rim. Just a few years into the league, Dominique was the franchise cornerstone of the Atlanta Hawks. He won the 1985 Slam Dunk Contest over conference rival Michael Jordan, and in the following season, he led the league in scoring with 30.3 points per game. This was a year with scoring juggernauts like Larry Bird and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Dominique outscored all of them that year. Back in those days, anytime Dominique and the Hawks matched up against Larry Bird and the Celtics or Michael Jordan and the Bulls, everyone knew they were in for an epic solo duel between the best wing players in the league. Classic battles where they would score 40 or even 50 points, trading basket after basket in a display of sheer competitive drive between the two players. The biggest battle came in the form of Game 7 of the 1988 Eastern Conference semifinals between Bird's Celtics and Dominique's Hawks, a game that will go down as one of the greatest games in NBA history. Dominique finished with 47 points and Bird had 34, with 20 of those coming in the fourth quarter, and the Celtics narrowly beat the Hawks 118-116. By the time the 1990 NBA season had rolled around, Dominique had carried his Hawks to 4 straight 50-plus win seasons. He was one of the most respected and feared players in the game, but had never managed to get over the hump of winning an NBA championship. In the 1991-92 season, Dominique Wilkins' success came to an abrupt halt when he ruptured his Achilles tendon only halfway through the season. Dominique and the players around the league were devastated by the tragic news, but this did not break Dominique's will and competitive drive. He worked vigorously to make a speedy recovery and to get back to competing for that elusive championship. Dominique was ready at the start of the 1992-93 season, and what ensued was likely the greatest comeback from an Achilles injury that the league had ever seen. Dominique looked like his old self, finishing the regular season with averages of 29.9 points, 6.8 rebounds, and 3.2 assists, while shooting nearly 47% from the field. He also made a career-high 123 pointers on the season on 38% shooting from that distance, officially destroying the myth that Dominique was simply a dunker. Dominique had also managed to pass Bob Pettit's 20,880 points to become the Atlanta Hawks' all-time leading scorer. The Hawks had squeaked their way into the playoffs with a 42-40 record. It was good enough for the 8th seed, but ultimately they were swept 3-0 by Jordan and the defending champion Chicago Bulls. The 1993-94 season rolls along, and Dominique continues to assert himself as one of the premier players in the league. But with his contract ending at the end of the season, and Wilkins quickly approaching his 35th birthday, the Atlanta Hawks made a shocking decision by trading their star and former franchise cornerstone for the younger Danny Manning. The move was emotionally devastating to Wilkins, whose heart and soul had been captured by the Atlanta fan base. Wilkins finished the year strong, averaging nearly 30 points in his final 25 games as an LA Clipper, but after that season was over, Wilkins' career would never be the same. He finished his NBA career as a shell of himself in journeyman, playing for the Celtics, Spurs, and Magic. Reflecting on Wilkins' career, it's clear that he was one of the greatest scorers in NBA history. He was one of only 8 players in NBA history to average at least 25 points per game in 10 consecutive seasons. That's a feat scoring legends like Kobe Bryant, Wilt Chamberlain, and Larry Bird never even accomplished. The other 7 players who accomplished that feat were Michael Jordan, Jerry West, Shaquille O'Neal, Karl Malone, Allen Iverson, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James. That's a pretty dang good company if you ask me. He's the man known as the human highlight film, the all-time leading scorer in Hawks history, an NBA slam dunk champion, and one of the greatest individual foes of Michael Jordan and Larry Bird in the 80s. Former Boston Celtic player and now general manager Danny Ainge spoke for many great players from Wilkins' playing days when he said, "Dominique wasn't selected as one of the 50 greatest players of NBA history, but to me, he's top 25. I might have to agree with him, to be honest. Wilkins proved he had everything it takes in the modern NBA to dominate the league. He was a quick forward with lots of length, transcendent athleticism, and he was a sharpshooter later on in his career. Ultimately, he's another case of simply entering the league at the wrong time and on the wrong team. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so overlooked. When Dominique was drafted in 1982 with the 3rd overall pick, he was passed up by the Lakers, who had the 1st overall pick and took the only small forward taken ahead of Dominique, which was James Worthy. Big Game James was a legend in his own right and won multiple championships with the Lakers. But one can only imagine what Dominique and the Lakers would have been like if they were together in the 80s and early 90s. Can you imagine Dominique on the fast break receiving no-look passes from Magic Johnson himself? Think about all the lob passes that would be getting thrown his way as well. Instead, Dominique was a legend in Atlanta for a Hawks team stuck in a conference of super teams. What the Western Conference is today is what the Eastern Conference was in the 80s. Sure, you had the Lakers out west, but the majority of the strength in the league was in the Eastern Conference, with the likes of Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish on the Celtics, Moses Malone, Dr. J, and Charles Barkley on the 76ers, Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, and Dennis Rodman on the Pistons, and Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen on the Bulls. The East in the 80s was absolutely stacked at the top, and unfortunately, Wilkins and his Hawks simply didn't have enough firepower to compete. Let me know in the comments section where you rank Dominique Wilkins among the greatest small forwards in NBA history. Thanks for watching my video, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.